Hey everyone, Paula Mattisonsierra again. Today, an entrepreneur creating great spaces. It's a great discussion with Drake Rankin. He's the CEO of Green Hive Spaces. And we're going to talk about creating access for underserved communities. Let's get the show started. Take care. Good morning, everyone. So, typically, we have entrepreneurs on who are way into their game. Some of them sold their businesses. Some of them are about to retire. Some of them have bought new businesses or been merged, and we want to find out about what's going on with them and how they did it. But so often we forget the folks who are starting brand new concepts out there funding. And this morning we're going to speak to a gentleman who's been doing this for a long time. He's going to share a story with us. Drake Rankin, CEO of Green Hive Spaces, is going to be here to have a conversation with us. Drake, good morning. And thank you, by the way, for
And Paul,
doing the interview from your car. Still making it happen. Still making it happen. Good morning.
good morning. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. I see that you're out and about, so I know that you started your day early. So I'm going to work some of those questions in as well.
Awesome.
Let's let's
Problem.
let's just jump right in there because it's a 30-minute show. I have a lot of questions for you about your concept within an already existing concept. But tell us a little bit about this current business, Green Hive Spaces.
Yeah, absolutely. We're an affordable, approachable, flexible workspace solution. So what that really means to me is providing space that's not only cost effective for new businesses starting up or even larger businesses that are just looking to watch their financials, but it's also about creating spaces that people feel comfortable in. And that's something that I don't feel has been addressed by a lot of the current workspace providers.
Yeah, it's I love when I first met you, that was something that you said, but then of course I went online, did a little stalking. Your space is lovely. Your space is
Thank
gorgeous. So we're hearing the word affordable, entrepreneurs just starting who they need an office space but can't
Right,
afford
right.
it. I'm thinking, oh, it's, keeping it very kind of budget friendly, but these are gorgeous spaces that you have. So I don't know. I love those two together and everything that how you're bringing it together. Was this your first business?
No, no, this actually wasn't. This is my third business actually. First business was social media marketing, which is actually how I got introduced to Green Hive Spaces to begin with back in 2016. And my second business was a music studio that I opened right before the pandemic in 2020. So that was a unique experience to say the least.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's like what doesn't break you make you stronger, I guess, you know?
Yeah.
So tell me about this mission that you have with Green Hive Spaces, because it's kind of unique. I mean, because you're not a not-for-profit, you're a
Right.
for-profit structure, but your structure is to do good for other entrepreneurs. Why this mission?
Right. So I believe fundamentally in business, I mean, for profit business, you don't need to be a nonprofit to do good things for the world. You know, we are a for profit business. We are not a nonprofit. We don't accept donations. But providing a space that is comfortable from people who come from different backgrounds is it's absolutely paramount. I mean, you look at spaces, I won't name names, but you look at spaces in more urban communities and they're definitely geared toward higher income earners, tech guys, just people from a different demographic. Um, so people who come from places like Vallejo, which is where I'm from, which is where our first location started. Um, they're not going to be comfortable in an environment like that, let alone unaffordability. I mean, those spaces are ridiculously unaffordable for people who come from communities like this, people who are just starting their business, from ground zero. Um, but yeah, I mean, providing that space for people that it's not only beautiful, like you said, because, just because it's cost effective doesn't mean we want to offer something that's low quality, but also is formatted in a way that people can feel comfortable getting work done and people feel like they belong and they fit in.
Yeah, yeah. I think sometimes, especially in the Bay Area, the approach is that the only people who are doing business are tech folks.
Right.
So the focus is on
Yeah,
that person, but there are a variety of businesses that we could be going after as well, you know? So
definitely.
that right now you're looking at fun because you're blowing this up. I mean, you're moving pretty rapidly and some great things are happening for the business. What have you learned about funding thus far? I mean, because you're in a interesting environment right now.
Yeah.
And what's your best
What I've learned,
advice? What have you learned? And what's your best advice to people?
what I've learned about funding is something that I don't think is a secret. I mean, it's incredibly difficult. Um, and especially kind of on that note of supporting the underserved, it's difficult for Black entrepreneurs. Out of $150 billion worth of capital that was deployed in 2021, Black entrepreneurs only made up for 1% of that capital,
Mm,
which is kind of absurd. I mean, we're in 2021. That's ridiculous. So raising capital is hard for anyone. But as most things in the US for Black folks, it's kind of accentuated a little bit, and hopefully we're moving toward something a little better there. But that's the number one thing I've learned. It's very difficult. It's definitely not easy. But on the flip side, I would say fundraising, particularly early stage fundraising, is all about connections. So the people and the people that genuinely know you. I mean, people don't invest in concepts per se. I mean, they'll invest in concepts later stage once you're, Series A, Series B. But when you're seed, pre-seed, pre-revenue, those are positions where you really have to lean on your connections and people who believe in you. That believe in the mission, believe in what you're doing, of course, but you're investing in the person more than the business.
oh, beautiful. So really, you're showing up with proof, basically proof. You're showing up with a lot of proof. You're not just showing up with just a concept is a theory. It's a thing of the past. You need to show up with people on your social media, people on your newsletter. You need to show up with actual proof. Is what I'm
Right,
hearing.
right.
Yeah, yeah. That's it makes sense for the folks out there who are thinking about it. Don't show up with your hand out, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily think like, there's a lot of great ideas that get funded at that pre-revenue stage where they're not even making money yet. They're just starting to at the very beginning of building this product out or idea or what have you. Um, but I definitely think that the number one word that I've heard throughout the fundraising process has been traction. Traction is so important. Everyone wants to know how much traction you've gotten, how many customers have you served, how much revenue are you pulling in, whether that be, profitable revenue or otherwise. But traction is such an important word. So the earlier you can get traction, the better your fundraising journey will go.
So, what's your opinion about failures and setbacks? Because I know, based on what you just said, you're rock starring it right now because you have to, right? It's like, but I want to hear how you approach any setbacks that you might face.
I really don't look at anything as failure unless you accept it as so. Um, Setbacks, which I think that's a much better word for it, but setbacks are par for the course, and I think you should go into any plan expecting setbacks. That's the reality of life. Typically, it's not going to go 100% as planned 100% of the time. So yeah, I think that the way I view setbacks personally is just as a learning experience, an opportunity to be flexible and pivot and reassess the right direction to go, whether that be in business or life. I mean, in a general sense, I don't think setbacks are a bad thing. They're just a part of life.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. What do you do to stay motivated and focused during the day? I mean, I've heard people play sports. There like a whole variety of things that people do to keep up with the challenges of being an entrepreneur. Because we're we're kind of an island to keep our moods going, right? You might have tons of employees around you, but really at the end of the day, it's kind of a you thing? Like, what do you do to stay so focused and so motivated?
I would say right now, I mean, the mission is really driving me. Like, we talked a couple weeks back, and I told you that really, for us right now at Green Hive, the way I feel about it is that I am helping support other people that are in a position that I was in as well. So other young or old or anywhere in between entrepreneurs who are still trying to figure it out, still trying to, you know, explore their idea and get to that point where they can see some traction, where people can be interested. And we talked about that fundraising number of 1% of that capital. So we need traction. Needless to say, we need traction before we can go approaching investors. So
Mm,
for me right now, I mean, I don't feel like it's just a me thing. It's not even just an our team thing, but the people we're supporting need the support. And I haven't heard of anybody trying to support this group of people.
yeah.
So, in the way that we're supporting them, I mean.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I mean that's what keeps me going. I feel like we're close to something here, and we're doing something that's very important.
I love it. So, we hear all the time on the net about people's morning routines and things like that. Do you have a morning routine? Because I'm hearing that you have one, but I'm curious. Do you actually have a morning routine that you follow?
Other than the essentials like skincare, teeth brushing, not particularly. I usually like to be a little fluid in the way that I operate. I don't like to be too rigid, especially in the mornings. Usually start my day with some reading, at least 30 minutes of it, which is, I feel, a good start. It gets you in the right headspace, especially after the weekend. That reading is really necessary for me, at least. Um, but yeah, I'll start my day with a little reading. Usually take a few brief phone calls. I, again, don't like to keep it too heavy in the morning. Grab some coffee and really get started with it, honestly.
So I'm going to throw a question that I had for later at you right now. Leaders are readers. What does that mean to you?
I think it's absolutely true. Um, knowledge is everything, and being humble enough to realize that you don't even have half the answers is a big part of the battle, because continuing to educate yourself, I mean, you're never going to reach a point of peak knowledge. Every day things are changing, so making sure you're staying up on that, reading and absorbing all the information. My high school had this term that I kind of kept with me for life, which was becoming a lifelong learner.
Mm,
And
I love that.
is not lifelong schooling, not lifelong taking courses, but always being open to absorbing knowledge wherever you can, whether it be through people, whether it be through books, whether it be through podcasts, whatever your thing is. Knowledge is out there, knowledge is everywhere, and making yourself a sponge that's able to soak up every ounce of knowledge that's thrown your way. I mean, that's so important.
What was the last book that you read, completed and finished? 'Cause, I know
Oh,
that you have like a reading goal, right? We were talking about your reading challenge that you
yeah.
gave yourself. What was it for the entire year?
It was a book a month, which I smashed it. We just finished a couple days ago, so I'm
Awesome.
feeling good about that. I met that goal, and I might just get 13. So
Yeah, I say
that's
do it. You have like a week and a half.
uh,
Why not? Wait, are these audiobooks or physical books?
A mix, it just depends. I mean, sometimes I always prefer audiobooks because I'm always on the move. I don't really have a lot of time to
Just
sit
a,
and just turn. Um, but some books you can't find on audiobook, and sometimes you got to turn that page, and sometimes that feels good, and it's helpful to be able to separate yourself from everything else and get some reading done. But that being said, definitely a bigger fan of audiobooks.
I have to say, just share that during COVID, because we were so isolated and just kind of in the house all the time, reading an actual book suddenly was a difficulty for me because I didn't want to be in the house.
Right,
So now I'm like, I want to go out, I want to go for a walk, I want to, and the audiobooks just fits that bill because you can be in fresh air, see people, and interact with
right.
them. So it's been since COVID. Now audiobooks are my jam. Before that was like, it feels like cheating. Now it's like, what are you talking about? It's like that. But what's the book that what's your last book that you read that you're like, oh my God, I need to read this one again, maybe.
So I want to start with the last book that I read, the 12th book, which was High Growth Handbook. That was a great book for me to set perspectives and expectations for kind of where the company's going. But in terms of books and in terms of repeating them, I find that most books are worth at least a second read.
Mm,
Um, you're gonna find things you didn't see the first time, and life changes drastically. If there's a book that really touched you 5 years ago,
yeah.
pick it up again and give it a second read, because you'll find that you've gained a lot of knowledge and perspective, and hopefully read a lot of books between that book and this point in time. So yeah, a book that I just recently reread was How to Win Friends and Influence People,
Oh yeah.
by Dale Carnegie, which was one of my favorite books. It was actually the first self-help book that I read
Oh,
back in 2015. So I was, for reference, I was 15 when I read this book. Um,
you're putting us all to shame. Just shut up, Drake. Just shut it.
so
I don't
so
even.
coming back to this book at 23, I mean, a lot's changed. I mean, it's almost been 10 years for me since I read the book.
You've
And I
done a
got a
lot
chance
since
to.
then.
Hmm?
You've done a lot since then. So I
Yeah,
can imagine coming back years later, it's like,
definitely. I mean, for anybody, right? But let alone, like I said, being in high school, reading that book, and then seeing almost a decade later, having being able to see how much a particular book influenced everything you did
mm,
up until the point you reread it. There's ways that you don't even realize, things that you don't even realize you absorbed from that book, but that have just become such an integral part of your day-to-day life. Um, so that's why I think it's particularly incredible, reading a book for a second time, and I think absolutely necessary. But to answer your question, a book that I read this year that I think people should read immediately and over again is Never Eat Alone by, let's see, Keith Ferrazzi. Have you read that one?
no, I'm gonna never be alone. Well,
So Never Eat Alone,
tell me about it.
it's actually a pretty brief book. It's not too extensive, but it means what the title says, and that's filling your schedule with people from your network. And it kind of goes back to what I said about people being the most important part about fundraising. And it's not just the most important part about fundraising, but the people are the most important part of life and of business. And you have to not only, Never Eat Alone is really speaking volumes on not only using your network. That's really not the point of the book, but when you find a genuine connection and have genuine interest in other people and what other people have going on and how you can help other people, I know that people are probably going to think, I need X. How is helping someone else going to help me? But people can smell users from a mile away, especially if you've been doing it for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And just going into a relationship with a self-serving mentality it's not going to be beneficial. People can read that, people can feel that, and it's not productive. It's not productive. If I don't care about what you have going on in your life, why are you going to care about mine?
Yeah, yeah, no, it's true. It's true. I can't remember I can't remember which book I read this in. Make I have to look this up, but it says, well, you're gonna eat lunch anyway, so why eat by yourself?
Right.
So it's just makes no sense. Like it's a free thing. You're gonna do it by yourself anyway, right? I think that became a bigger thing for me during COVID. It's like, well, look at the ridiculous amount of money that I'm saving. I'm not going anywhere. There's no gas being burnt. There's no BART getting taken. Like, that's a lunch every day, and that's just a phone call. Drake, you want to meet me at Gott's? Let's go get a burger together.
Right.
Let's get
Exactly.
coffee together. Easy enough.
And
Uh,
Paula,
Go ahead.
really funny thing about that
Mhm.
is I frequently invite people, especially newer people, to my network. Like, if I met you at a networking event and we hit it off, or if you're a new member to my Rotary Club, I frequently invite people out just to go to lunch with no meeting agenda. Just let's hang out, let's
Yeah.
talk, let's eat
Talk.
lunch together.
Yeah. I want to get to know
And
you. Yeah.
you'd be surprised how many people get to the meeting. We sit down and like, okay, so what is this about? We're 15, 20 minutes in. What is
Yeah.
this about? I'm like, what do you
And
mean? What is this about?
but can I tell you, this is from Stephen Covey's book, Seven Habits. It's okay when people share who they are with you. And you should start listening to that basically. And for me, I'm like, it's like you just did me a favor. Just the very fact that you said that just now tells me that we cannot be referral partners because the way you do one thing is kind of the way you do many other things. If you think
Exactly.
that a relationship is built on taking something, then it's probably not going to work. So I'm like, after like, because I've had that experience as well. I just go straight into, well, we're just here to have lunch. I just want to get to know you. Done. I'm never
Yeah.
seeing you again. I'm never calling you again. And it's okay. I remember one guy I met with, literally, we sat down. My butt hadn't even hit the seat yet. I had my Starbucks still in my hand. He's like, well, you're new to the group. And before I start giving anything to anyone, I want to find out what you can give me. Do
Wow.
you not get how this works? This is not the mafia. This is not the Godfather. You know, let me see what you can bring to your dawn, and I will take care of you. No,
That
that's not.
to me
It
that
was.
that somebody.
Thank you. Yeah, but I was okay with that. It took me a while to get to, because initially I was like, what the hell? It took me a little while to sit and contemplate it that someone just did me a favor. They were very comfortable enough to share who they were without even realizing they shared
Right.
a big thing about them. So, but that's the benefits of reading books, though, because why should we have to figure this out by ourselves? The books are going to tell us because someone else went through this, you know?
But you know what? The thing is, it's like, there's the reading aspect and the arrogance of believing that you can succeed without, not necessarily just reading, but without being obsessive with your consumption of knowledge. That's arrogance to me. But number two is, a lot of the reading that you do regarding people is pretty fundamental knowledge. It's things that we've been taught since we were kids, and it's human nature. If you religiously treat people the way that you want to be treated, then you'll
Yeah.
more than likely never run into any issues.
Let me ask you a question. For you, what's the importance then, with all that we've said, of building a community? And how do you have any rules about how you build your community?
What
for
do you
your
mean?
whether it's business or personal, your sphere around you. You know, they say that your actions and your success are going to be determined by the relationships you bring into that sphere. Because the closer someone
Absolutely.
is to you, the more their good or bad habits can affect you, right?
Right.
So
You know what? I think that
no, no, go ahead.
there's two ends of that spectrum. Hmm. Give me the question one more time.
What's the importance of building a community as you build your business and just personally as well?
Okay, so you always hear the term, you're the sum of the five people you spend the most time around. There's one end of the spectrum where, you spend your time around maybe not so great influences.
Mm,
And then there's the opposite end of the spectrum where you endlessly chase people with more influence and power. Both sides of that spectrum, to me, are a failing formula. I am very, there's no other way to put it. I'm very vibe oriented. It's very important how discussion feels with people,
mhm,
how we get along. I'm not seeking people based on their status or their title. I'm seeking people based on a genuine human connection.
yeah.
Um, you'll connect with people who are like-minded. So focus on the genuine human connections. Focus less on title. Focus less on, income level. It's not to say that you don't want people in your circle who are earning higher income than you, because that motivates you and drives you to higher spaces. But don't chase higher income people, or you know staying in
Just
lower income mentality. Either side of the spectrum, to me, when you find genuine people, when you make your mission, your personal mission, your professional mission clear to yourself, you know things will start to fall in line with how you intended them to be.
I love that because I know we suffer from that in the Bay Area. You know, it's like sometimes you go to these networking events and the first thing people want to know about is how much paper you have. It's almost like you're
Right.
just standing there doing a resume. It's so distasteful. You know, it's like, but I don't even know who you are yet. So you can read stuff and take a test. You know, it's like, but are you a douchebag? I don't know.
Right.
You could genuinely be a jerk to be around. And I know that that's something in our American society that's revered. Yes, I'm going to curse folks. I'm doing a preface right now. The asshole is revered in American society, right? It's been nurtured since high school. Like it's an American tradition. But they're simply bullies. It's like there needs to be something more than that for me as well. But I have to say I did see it a lot when I came to the Bay Area. You know, you're absolutely right. There is this the first person who ever mentioned Think and Grow Rich to me was actually a security guard. He was like the concierge at this building that I worked at when I was younger. And all he did was read all day. He would just read, and he was like retired. It was like a second job situation, and he loved his job because he got paid and he read. It's like
Right.
literally that's what he said. He was like, and so I'd stop and I'm like, "What book are you reading? What?" And so now he gets to know me enough, and he's like, "Kid, I really want you to read this book, Think and Grow Rich." He was the first person who ever mentioned it to me, and based on it took me years to understand what he said until I heard Oprah say it. She's like, people keep saying that I'm smart. I'm okay, but I'm just a repository of all the information that I've read from all these great experiences. You do become this repository of other people's experience, which is just beautiful that they've shared it. This is my life. I'm sharing what happened. Do with it what you will. So let me ask you a question to follow this up. You started so early, your first business, right? But if you could go back and tell me what age you'd go back to, what would you, if you could meet your younger self? It's like my favorite question. What would you tell your younger self?
Wow, if I could meet my younger self, I'd definitely go back to 18.
Oh,
Because I think before then, there's a lot of figuring it out, a lot of being a kid, and that's important too. But I'd go back to 18 because I think that though I'm only, what am I, 5 years removed from 18? Yeah, I'm only 5 years removed from 18 at this point, almost six. But I would definitely again emphasize the people because I was really introverted and really hated networking, and I wish that I would have seen the value of networking earlier.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Me and you both, sir. I mean, I heard about it. I just thought it was, I think I was introduced to it when I was in real estate when I was 19. And it was that guy with the cards that I always tell people about this
Oh,
story where, oh my, like he was just, like no personal relationship, no stopping to get to know people. He was going for numbers. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm not doing a great job because I only met like 7 people and got to know them intimately. That's clearly not how you do this. Who knew I was doing it well? But I wish I had like learned about the BNIs and the provisors and the rotaries of the world at that stage. It would have been highly beneficial because being around other business owners, like your business name, Hive, is like a hive mentality. I mean, you
right.
learn so much from each other, which is really the blessing of the whole thing. So, I guess that's a big takeaway that we're sharing right now with entrepreneurs, whether you're running your business right now, you're just starting, you're trying to get funding. I know there's a lot of you out there who are networking and you're on my LinkedIn, but there is like a big proportion of you guys who poo-poo it, won't do it, won't interact with others. And I'm going to say that's a flaw, that's a fail. Get out, go meet some people, go learn, go up level, go get better, So I think that's a big takeaway, Yeah, So how often do you network?
Every day, every
Yeah,
day. I mean,
yeah,
it's not a. I think looking at networking as a finite activity is the wrong mentality. I mean, we networked. We picked up the phone last Thursday, and you and I had a 30-minute chat. I mean, that's networking. We're just having a discussion. It doesn't necessarily need to be
yeah.
this big scary thing. You shoot somebody a text and ask them how they're doing because you haven't connected in a while. That's networking. Just making sure, again, networking is just a buzzword, but it's about genuine connections and making sure you stay connected with people beyond when you need them, because nobody likes to be reached out to, only when they're needed.
I love it. I love it. That's a great way to wrap up the show, guys. I hope you guys are having an amazing day. Please reach out to Drake if you are interested in investing in this company. Notice I went straight to funding. Investing in Drake's company, getting to know Drake, hearing about his networking activities. Please reach out to him. He's on LinkedIn. He's accessible. If you're ready to up level, next level, you're ready for some marketing, you're ready for those ideas, those strategies, not tactics, strategies, power marketing and stuff, reach out to me on LinkedIn as well. My continued mission, as always, is to introduce you to everyday experts and business owners like Drake, to up level you with, it's a hive mind after all. We all got a little piece of the puzzle. So we're just here to share and help you to move forward in these very interesting times. We air every Thursday, 10 a.m. live on LinkedIn. This is not a pre-done, nicely edited glam shot. And if the guys who do watch this a lot know their days when the Amazon guy's ringing and we got to go take a delivery, that actually happened, by the way. It was adorable.
I believe.
Right? The naked child who ran behind. It's been a lot, but that's the beauty of live, and that's where we are right now. So I'm going to close the show. Again, thank you so much, Drake, for being
Thanks for
on
having
and sharing all your experience. And I have to say, I'm going to kick myself in one apology because I'm big on apologizing always, but you know getting you on the show to share your new experience. And frankly, your experience ain't new. You've been doing this since you were 15. That's longer than some older entrepreneurs as well. So you're bringing a wealth as well. So I just want to say that, I'm big on always just saying stuff, So wanted to make sure I said that out loud. Thank you so much for the info today. And I want to
Absolutely.
close the show with this one Drake and I chose together. The best way to predict the future is to create it. Peter Drucker. So go out there, go create your own future. Thank you, viewers, for watching, sharing this. As always, keep moving forward, everyone. Take care. And we're out.